Mark. Hello everybody and welcome to Mondoid, your one-stop shop for all things Project Zomboid, and this week it's an NPC related Mondoid. So this blog I've known has been coming for a while. I've been waiting for it to show up so I can kind of talk about it, and it's here and it's huge. This video's showing off NPCs and all kinds of good stuff. With it though comes the unfortunate caveat that there's not much for me to discuss outside of stuff that I've already spoken about before. This is actually one of those blogs that is better to read than it is for me to talk about, because all I can really do is regurgitate a lot of the stuff that's already being said. That being said, there's still some stuff I'm looking forward to and will definitely discuss. So basically, this blog kind of opens up with what they've been working on in the NPC world. I mean, they've kind of brought up NPCs here and there, not really going into great detail about what they've been working on, but they do talk about basically the past year and the hiccups along the way. I mean, one of the big things that people have complained about is that, hey, there were NPCs once before, why'd you take them out? And you got to remember first that the NPCs prior were gun-toting maniacs. They were basically zombies with shotguns. They were just violent, disastrous, masochistic bastards. And basically what they say here is that when they decided to look at NPCs and realize that they were not going to compromise on NPCs, they were going to make it what they had envisioned it to be from the start, that bringing them over to the new system, when they rebuilt the system, when they kind of rolled back and said, look, here's how we're gonna rebuild this game kind of from the ground up, transferring over those NPCs was going to be really difficult, if not impossible. The code was a mess, and really kind of retrofitting NPCs and trying to keep them up to date with all the new additions to the game was basically going to be impossible. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. If they had known all that stuff prior, they obviously wouldn't have put in NPCs in the beginning, but they made the executive decision to take out NPCs and start them from scratch. What that meant was they could really kind of tear apart the NPC code and rebuild it bigger, better, stronger, faster, all that good stuff. And that's what they did. And that's kind of what this general big paragraph thing is about. So then they talk about this last week on Gamasutra. Lemmy actually posted a big article on AI and all this stuff. And there is 4 videos showing off NPCs, 4, with a nice screenshot showing some of the stuff you're going to be able to do with NPCs, which is awesome. But let's skip down to where they are now with NPCs themselves. So Kane Baldspot is a big focus, because with Kane Baldspot comes the return of the tutorial. They're not going to put it back in until they are 100% good and ready to do it. They're also working on metaverse event scripting. Metaverse event scripting is all that stuff that happens when you're not near the NPC. Now, if you remember back in old school Project Zomboid, they would load up the entirety of the world before you played. Now the way it works is it loads up in chunks, basically a chunk around the player. So when an NPC is not in that physical chunk near the player, they are considered in the metaverse. They are still doing what they would be doing, but it's not actually happening in real time. It's happening kind of just as background noise, essentially, is the easiest way to explain it. And then when you get near the NPCs, it'll load up without a loading screen, obviously, but they'll pop in and become physically they'll exist physically within the game, and they'll continue doing what the metaverse was saying that they were doing in the background. What that means is that they need to make sure that all the metaverse is working appropriately. They have a lot of metaverse events happening, but they want more, and they're working on getting those in. Another thing that they need to get done and they're working on is combat. Because NPCs are no longer considered a separate category within the game. It used to be player, NPC, and zombies, but now it's just survivor and zombies, essentially. Players and NPCs are going to be considered the same thing, meaning that NPCs do exactly what you can do. They can't cheat. They do everything that you can do. They are just doing it with an AI brain instead of a human brain. So they also need to make sure combat is working appropriately. When NPC and player combat starts working, they need to make sure it's working, as intended. The other thing they're working on is trading. Trading is something they're working on getting into the game, both with NPCs and multiplayer, and that's something they're actually working on. Other than that, I mean, I know it's a real quick thing, but like, look how much is here. It says, I urge you to go read this because there's really not much I can really dissect. There's so many videos for you to watch, and they go into great detail about exactly what they're doing. Stuff that, if I kind of went through it, there wouldn't be much. I wouldn't be able to talk too much about it. What I would suggest is go to read this and understand where they are, and don't get too hyped. They said they're looking at a minimum of another 2 or 3 months before you see them in the game. And even when they're in the game, they're still going to be buggy and basic. Well, maybe not as basic as they were before, but they're going to be, you know, the phase 1. That's what alpha is all about, right? It's like going to be the phase 1 of NPCs. They're going to be buggy. They're going to be doing weird things. There's all kinds of stuff that are going to be changed when they do officially come into the game. That being said, when they do come into the game, you're still looking at another couple months. Is it exciting that we have news? Of course it is. Are some people going to get hyped about it anyway? Of course they are. But I would highly suggest not to get your hopes up that it's going to come anytime soon. What you can do is look at this picture and take a look at all the cool things you're going to be able to do so far with NPCs and what it means for everybody, and then come watch the NPCs play and see what they do and how they play out. It's awesome. There's so many cool things, guys, that's coming. NPCs are going to change this game. NPCs, as I've said infinite amount of times, are going to make or break Project Zomboid. And the way they talk about NPCs, the way they said they will not compromise it, because this is something that you don't ever see in video games, if ever, rarely. The fact that this is something they are so committed to making perfect, I really think this is going to make Zomboid the game everybody is hoping it's going to turn out to be. And I'm really excited for it. So check it out. Come by projectzomboid.com and come read this blog. It is worth your time and attention. This is something that people have been waiting to get their little hands on, and this will hopefully sate you, even if just for a little while. Thank you guys so much for coming by. If you're one of those once-a-weekers, I'll see you next week. If you're a regular, I'll see you later today. And as always, I'll see all of you next time. Bye-bye.